Okay.
All right.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. We are here today to have a fairly informal chat about our Sun and Moon Yoga in-depth foundations teacher training program. And we have here some representation from our Sun and Moon teacher training faculty. We have some from our Sun and Moon teacher faculty. We have some graduates from our teacher training program over the course of the 11 years now that we've been running this program. And we have some longtime Sun and Moon students and members of the community, as well as brand new members of the community, all of whom are curious and interested about this program. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us live. And those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for taking the time to do that. It's a fairly lovely, warm fall day. And so I hope everyone had a chance to get outside and breathe some fresh air. And so here we are. This morning, Amir and I were talking about what it would have been like if the pandemic had hit in, say, 1990, like pre-internet. What would we have done, right? So who knows? But one thing we do know is we would not have had the leisure and the advantage of communing in this way with the benefit of technology. And so right there in this week of Thanksgiving is an opportunity for some pretty profound gratitude. The question when we get into the teacher training program itself really centers around how to capture the magic, how to capture the in-depth magic that so many of us have experienced over the last 11 years. How do we still uphold the values of the studio itself relative to the way we cultivate new teachers around personal connection and around the well-rounded and holistic understanding of yoga beyond just yoga postures or asana? And this is bad news and good news as far as the pandemic goes and the online platform. And it's in one sense, the bad news is twofold. The personal connections are a little more challenging to cultivate. And the asana portion, the yoga posture, the physical practice portion is a little hard to capture. It's hard to see bodies in two dimensions. It's hard to deliver clear cues when you don't have the benefit of being there live in front of people. And it's hard to see how those cues from the teacher are landing in the students without the real life presence. But my strong feeling is that's where the bad news ends, and everything else about it is good news. And because mainly yoga postures are only one of 8 of the limbs of yoga. And we've always prized our quality curriculum around focusing on the other limbs, the limbs of breath, the limbs of self-care and care for community, the limb of understanding how our sensory receptors are affected and how we can manage them in a highly sensory world. And then the last 3 limbs around concentration and absorption and deep meditation are all so critical to the message of this beautiful practice. And those things are really well suited to be captured on a virtual platform because it calls for such deep introspection. And so while we can't be out there doing things and going places and merging with each other physically, it offers this beautiful opportunity to turn inward, which is the practice of yoga right there in a nutshell. We have some some fun ideas about how to make it meaningful on the virtual platform, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But before we do that, I'm going to ask first from the faculty, the teacher training faculty, why you love teaching people to teach yoga. And I'll go first as an example. The thing that I love most about teaching people to teach yoga is that I get to reveal a little bit of a secret sauce. And that is that teaching yoga is an opportunity not to tell people what they should tell other people, but to open themselves up so that the essence of the practice can just speak through them. So it's helping people become a vessel or a channel for this really profound and ancient wisdom instead of truths. So when you're at the end of a yoga class and a student approaches the teacher, this happens so often, and says, "How did you know what I needed today?" The answer is, we don't usually know what you needed, but we know what the potential for yoga is and how we can open ourselves up to those messages. And they land because yoga is so powerful, not because we are omniscient, but because yoga is omniscient and omnipotent. It knows all, and it has the power of the universe. And so that's what I love about teaching people to teach. And now here's my partner Amir, and he'll share a little bit about what he loves about teaching people to teach.
Yeah, years ago, I met someone that was taking a teacher training course at one of these big corporate yoga chains. And she was telling me about it. And she said that she had just signed up for this required course on making a playlist, which I thought was absurd. I've never seen anything in any of the ancient texts of yoga about a playlist. So, I've been teaching for over 20 years now. And the one thing that I've always liked about teaching itself is teaching the things that I like. And finding people that find my knowledge interesting, and want to follow that. And that's what I like about teaching teachers, is instilling in them to become the kind of teacher that inspires themselves. So, they find what they like about yoga. I always talk about the body of knowledge of yoga is, it's huge. And the most that anyone can maintain, can learn, is like this. So you get to carve out which section of this whole body of knowledge of yoga that interests you, that you like, and take it out into your own teaching. And, we kind of give you the basis, for doing that. And then I like to steer people towards all of those things that really, really get them, that really turn them on into this practice.
And that's why we're not dogmatic about what we teach in our program. We lay out all the possibilities, and we encourage people to find their own unique path. Rixie, would you share?
Well, it's a great question. I really haven't voiced this. I've thought about it inside, so let's see what comes out. Because my experience is, after many years of teaching, is many levels, many subjects of yoga, is to know that when, back when we were in the studio, when people walk through the doors of that yoga studio, of our yoga studio, whatever yoga studio, what I realized is that when they walk through the doors and sit down on their mat, they're seeking something. All of us right here seeking something. And some know and most don't know. And then to observe a lot of the students begin to, you see it, they begin to fall in love with yoga, and they fall in, you see them take more workshops, they take more classes, and they begin to fall in love, and then they see the offering of the teacher training. And then for me, it's easy peasy as a teacher, because everybody that has registered as a student in the teacher training is just wants to know what we possibly know. and they just kind of eat it up, and they're passionate as well as we are, and so it's, I don't know, it's just it's a fabulous experience for me, and I know for all of you, to know that everybody that's coming and sitting in front of you, if it's virtually or if it's in person, that they already know that they love it. And for us, it is such a joy to be able to impart a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more wisdom with them.
Thank you. Thank you, Rixie.
Mm-hmm.
Alex.
Hi, everyone. It's such a joy to be here, and so glad this journey's embarking again. I also want to just say I've been on Zoom for 25 hours in the last 5 days. So if you see me gazing away, I need a break for my eyes. I'm totally here, but I cannot stand the screen right now anymore. So maybe that's a part for the next part, when you guys are going to be online a lot on Zoom. There's a way to keep yourself fresh, and some of that is looking away. A little bit of what's already been shared. One is what you're embarking on, if you're interested in this program, is you want to learn more. It's ongoing learning, and the learning, as Rixie intimated, is what you seek is already within you, or at least the seed of it is already within you. And so I find more and more, as my long decades in this world as well, it's how to tap, how we each, our job is not to feed you stuff, but for you to tap in, to find and discover and unfold and find the joy and the seeds and the growth that's already there within you. And it never ends. So that may sound daunting, but it's actually very exciting, because the never ends, as I've just completed a training program today, it's like getting, each learning piece is like getting another gift. And just when you think there couldn't be any more gifts, they keep getting richer and better, and it's really incredible.
Thank you, Alex.
That is
That's
great.
inspiring as always, and so true. So we'll hear from Vicki next, and then after that, we're going to ask some of our, all of our graduates of the program who are here with us today to share one standout moment that they experienced during their tenure as a student in the program. And we have people from this last year that had to make the pivot to the virtual platform, going all the way back many years. So Vicki.
Hi, Annie, Amir, Rixie, and Alex. You know, we're all saying the same thing. I love seeing the passion that the ones who come seeking and looking for more about yoga, that it's more than just showing up for that class and doing that class weekly, that there is this whole world that gets opened up, and to explore that and to have each student find their own voice. I love to see each student in the program see that they really love a particular part and just dive in. It really is beautiful to see. And then when they start teaching, they have that direction of who they really want to share. They find that audience, and the students then will find that teacher.
You're here. All right. So I'm not going to call on you. I'll just let you each jump in when you're inspired to go. So introducing our fabulous alumni community, some of whom are teaching, many of whom are teaching on various platforms and or raring to go and ready to teach when the opportunity arises. And so they'll share with you now one standout moment that they experienced. Do you want me to call on you? Not to leave.
This is Judy. I'll go.
Okay. And if you would just let us know what year you graduated, which is for Judy 2020.
Yep, I haven't actually graduated yet, but I'm very close. I finally finished my research project. And I have to say that I was unable to pick a standout moment because the whole program was just a standout for me. And I just, I started the training program because I had recently retired, and I was searching for what to do with the rest of my life. I felt like I was a kid again because here I have hopefully many decades left to live, and no one else telling me what I have to do with my time. And so that was what led me. I had a couple of yoga teachers independently, spontaneously suggest to me that I take a teacher training program, and I have just, it's opened up a whole new world to me. I have loved the program. As I think all of the teachers said, the structure kind of gives you a framework for all of the aspects of yoga. I was really a novice when I began, and so I early on felt like I was drinking from a fire hose. But as they've all said, if you just kind of let it wash over you, you find the parts that are fascinating, and there are so many. So I feel like I've really begun a lifelong journey of learning, and I just am so grateful to have had the opportunity. So it's a standout everything, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Judy. All right, Natalie. Oh, Natalie,
You're still muted.
Unmute yourself, sweetie.
Okay. Hi. Hello, everyone. So my name is Natalie, and I graduated last March, April. And
wait.
Yes.
From 500 hour, but you also did your 200 hour years ago, right?
Yes. Oh, I thought it was in-depth program today.
Well, it's both, but you did your 200 hours.
I did the foundies and then the in-depth both.
Yeah.
So I started about 5 years ago, the foundies, and then I continue with the in-depth program. And I have to say, there's not just one standout moment. There is plenty, but I will say there's two main things that stand out. The first one is that I never realized in a million years that yoga was such a Pandora box of tools for self-inquiry. And I think the various programs that are presented at Sun and Moon, I was able to see how much there is to learn about anatomy, how much there is to learn about the energy body, how much there is to learn about the wisdom body, about philosophy of yoga, about connection with people, learning how to find your voice to express yourself, so people understand cues and ideas. And for me, that was the biggest challenge, to find the confidence to speak up. Because many reasons, I was not raised in this country where I had to learn to be in front of an audience, and it was the biggest challenge. But the reason in part that I feel that I was able to overcome that challenge was because of the diversity of the teacher body. Rixie, Annie, Vicky, Amir, Alex, they all have very different personalities. And that was very reassuring to see how, no matter what is your personality, your strength, your weakness, there is a way for you to rise and be able to come out. So that's definitely something that I'm so grateful to Sun and Moon program. And I mean, I can talk and talk about so many other things. I mean, the gifts are plentiful. And like Judy said, you don't know what you're going to discover, but there's a lot of things that are going to come up. And it's a lifelong journey that I am so happy to have been given the opportunity to embark.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathalie. Merci beaucoup.
Avec plaisir.
Okay, let's hear from Sandra.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I think I have shaky internet today.
We can hear you great.
You can hear me? Oh, great. I finished the 2016-2017 Foundies program, but I didn't take the direct route. I didn't take my exam until this year and turned in my project. So I don't encourage anybody to take the roundabout route that I took, but it's been a wonderful journey. I made some good friends in my class. If I could narrow it down to one thing that I will remember, my teachers here will be laughing at me. I loved the different workshops that we got to take from not only the Sun and Moon staff, but the expert instructors that came in. So they will all remember that I complained and complained after the twisting workshop that we took. Well, it was an option. So I was the only one that took the whole thing. So I signed up for it, and that's on me. But I complained because a little twisting is a good thing. But when you twist and do yin yoga from Friday to Sunday, I found that it changes your body, which I won't go into all the changes that happened to me, but some of them are personality. It brought up anger in people. I had no idea that yoga could do that to somebody. I complained and complained, like I hated this teacher. I would never take another workshop from her. I told every Sun and Moon staff member about it. Rixie said, twisting works with your liver and it will bring up the anger. But Amir said, the thing that you hate is probably the thing that you need the most. And oh my God, both of them were right, of course. Rixie and Amir were both right, but I needed it. And I didn't think about it a lot again until I was writing out my exam this year. And of course, I had to write about it because it was the thing that changed me the most. And now I'm a teacher at Sun and Moon. Guess what? I teach at least one twist per class because I know how much it can change you in a positive way. Definitely during this time, it's doing things to my immune system during COVID. So I will be teaching twist forever because of this experience. Thank you.
I love that story. I love it so much. Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, thank you. All right, I'm just jumping around in no particular order. Deb Diamond.
Well, I want to echo everything that's been said so far, but I also, in terms of the overall program being itself a standout and the variety of things that one learns, but I do have a single moment that I can talk about. And that is, one of the reasons I joined the program, and people who've been in my class have heard me use this word many times, I was looking for a way to build more serenity into my life. And I thought the classes I had always been to were mostly physical practice. And so I was more interested in learning about the philosophical aspects of yoga. And I found out for sure that I was on the right path when my class, which is the same as Judy's, it's the one that just finished in June of 2020. And we spent one evening last January at Annie and Amir's house talking about book 2 of the Yoga Sutras. And a light went on for me that night because the discussion told me that yes, the sutras are beautiful ways of of learning to face life with greater serenity. And that was, with all the other wealth of things I learned in the class, that was the most important and the most enjoyable. Full disclosure, it was only the beginning of the journey. I did not in June of 2020, I did not by any means know everything about living your life according to the sutras. That's why they call this the foundation program. But it gave me a foundation for, again, pursuing this philosophy, this way of life for the rest of my life, along, of course, with asana practice. And I invite you to try the same path. You will not regret it.
Thank you so much, Deb. And I'll echo what you just said. My first exposure to the Yoga Sutras was in the year 1994, and I still don't know everything there is to know, and I still discover new things every time I engage with these texts and this practice. So here's to the lifelong journey. All right. Annie Welch.
Hi guys. I finished foundations in 2016. But like Sandra, I'm being a little bit roundabout about getting my project done. But the thing that I chose for my project, and I chose it, I actually started teaching in April of my foundational journey. So, and it was a 12-week class, and we had just started learning about, we had already covered the yamas and the niyamas, which I immediately fell in love with because I love rules, and they reminded me of the 10 Commandments, which were the set of rules that I was like, okay, I got to follow when I was like a little kid. And so then getting this like new yoga version of them, where it definitely felt more liberating, was at least for me anyway, and it just was this like very liberating way of living life, but still having this set of rules. And so I decided that I was going to do my project on those, and my project was then to come up with 12 classes, 12 asana classes that would sort of break down the yamas and the niyamas. And so my big takeaway, I was married at the time, and teaching the yamas and the niyamas and learning about the yamas and the niyamas, I realized, oh, I can't be married anymore and live a way that follows these 10 things. So I got divorced before the end of my year, my foundational year, which was amazing. And I loved that I was part of this community at the time that that happened for me. And I remember actually thinking on like the first day, the day that was sort of like this, with the teaching staff talking about their experiences with yoga, I remember sitting there thinking, oh shit, I'll probably be divorced at the end of this. But yeah, so I guess like fair warning, it's super transformational. Like that's what will happen. But it was amazing to have that philosophy and this support system and this community be what was surrounding me at the time that happened in my life.
Annie, when I asked you to share, in the back of my head, I was hoping that that would be the thing you shared.
Well, when you said get personal, I was like, all right.
So, and I remember starting off one of our training years, not with your story about you, Annie, in particular, because obviously that's only for you to share, but I did say something like, be careful, everybody, this might change your life. And at the end of the year, one of the students, and I don't remember who it was or what year, came up to me and said, when you said that, I thought, oh, come on, how grandiose. That's a ridiculous statement. Don't tell us something like that. And then, but they said, oh, like they finally understood it after having their own transformations, large or small. There's no, we can't quantify these things. So thank you. All right, Melissa Baker, another 2020 grad.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, a lot of similar items. One of the things that really drew me into Sun and Moon's program was I looked into a lot of different studios for training, teacher training programs, and the exposure to so many teachers was very appealing to me. Because Annie, I don't even know how many people, like Sun and Moon teachers that teach parts of the training off the top of my head, but
I think it's about a dozen.
Yeah, so it's a lot of different styles and different approaches to yoga. And in terms of one of my my big takeaways, like was probably the moment where I was like, okay, good, I'm glad I know I'm in the right spot, was my first observation class, which was the morning of the first time we met. And I remember two things about that observation. One was, and Amir, this is one of your classes, so I don't know if you remember me being there, but I was like, it was probably like 45 or 50 minutes into the class before we did downward dog. And my mind kind of exploded. So that gave me pause, because it's like, okay, maybe I don't know what yoga is, right? Like, does yoga have to look a certain way? And does yoga have to contain certain poses? And that part was very alarming to me. So I was like, okay, I'm holding this too rigidly. And then at the end of that class, to watch people in Shavasana, I was like, oh, this is yoga. Like, there was a lot of just moments of, I don't have to be doing the asana for me to be doing yoga, which was very good. And to move around that rigidity is part of my judgment style that I work through in my day-to-day life. So Annie, I think, was saying is transformational. Yes, if that's what you're looking for, it has that capacity. And I would absolutely do the program again.
Melissa, thank you so much. I just wrote down what you said. I'm quoting you. I don't have to be doing asana to be doing yoga. I mean, that's one of our headlines. Like that's a subtitle of our whole approach, really, at our studio. So, yay for that. All right, Janice, and your beautiful, beautiful colored wall behind you. I just love it.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting us to join in. This is great. I completed the foundations program in 2019. And as life happens, I will get there eventually. With my project, I have so many things in mind and that type of thing. And I'm getting there. Rixie can vouch for that, slow but surely. So many things. First of all, in my second time around through the program, I met wonderful women who I connected with, and realized then it was my time. That's when I should and be there, as opposed to the first time around. And so we stayed in contact, all of us, and we are really a tight-knit community just within the Sun and Moon community, which feels wonderful to know that. Also, my standout moment would be one of them. There were many, but one of them, it was Amir's class, and it was, I think my facial expression probably showed it. Amir told us to stand up and firmly plant both feet on all 3 points. And I thought, what happened to the 4th point? Because since 2003, there were always 4 points on each foot to be firmly grounded. So it was the strangest thing to hear 3. So I guess for me, the awareness began with just the physical aspect of yoga. It's ever changing. Continue to learn and appreciate, and I find that amazing. And the wealth of information shared as seekers from the Sun and Moon teachers, shared with kindness and love, and it's just a great journey. It's just a great journey, and it never ends, and I don't want it to ever end. So when people ask me, aren't you done? Aren't you done? I'm like, no, I'm not done. I will never be done. This is amazing. So, and I so appreciate Sun and Moon. I will always be a part of Sun and Moon's community. It's an amazing place.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful share. Yeah, and I wanted, so a few people have mentioned, oh, I graduated in whatever year, 2015, 17, 18, whatever, and I haven't done my project yet, or I haven't taken my exam yet. And so this is news to me, and the only reason I'm saying that is because what we are interested in is not those, we're not interested in checking off boxes. Like, there's value in every component of the program, but the real and only value that ever was and ever will be is the human being that shows up in front of us. And so if it takes 10 years to check off all the boxes and hold a certificate in your hand, that has nothing to do with what we see as valuable in terms of sharing with the yoga community. And so we're flexible, as all good yogis are, and we're open and we're real. This is a human pursuit, and you can't put hard parameters around a human pursuit. Because creativity and love and compassion will always find a way. And we're going to make sure that we stay open to those things finding their way. There's one more share that this came from Anna East Ortiz, who graduated in, I don't even remember what year, 2 years ago, I think. Janice, was she part of your group? Or yeah, okay. So she couldn't come today, but I want to read what she shared in particular because it's about a segment that Annie Welsh taught to their group in whatever year it was. Oh, and Allison, I will not forget you. Thank you. Thanks for hanging in there. So Anna East wrote, one of the most salient moments was when Annie Welsh led the Yoga for Kids training. I had never been particularly interested in teaching kids, but was still excited to see what she had to teach us. Annie started us off with a flow using fun animal names for every pose, and we moved through them with such a sense of playfulness and curiosity without any pressure to perfect the shape. We had so much fun just moving our bodies, and the practice became intuitive and freeing, yet still reverent. Embodying the perspective of a child created a tabula rasa from which to appreciate the yoga in its purest form, love. The beauty of this moment set a new benchmark for the kind of experience a yoga class should create for students at any age, and I'm grateful to Annie for guiding us through this beautiful moment. So that was something I wanted to make sure we got in. And speaking of kids and animals, what a perfect segue to Alice and Zach.
That is perfect, because the thing you said before that is actually kind of awkward based on what I'm going to say. So that'll make sense in a second. So everyone, well, a lot of people here have been talking about their experience of the final project. And I was one of the people who was just like really wanting to ride the momentum of taking my exam and like get it done. And I was also the jerk who I graduated just this 2020 year, and back in like February, I had 2 ideas bouncing around in my head for that final project, and they were both super different. But I kept working on each of them in little bits and pieces throughout the whole second half of the program. And one of them was how I, in my day job as an environmental educator, use yoga to teach kids about nature. But the other one was like a white person's guide to teaching yoga and not like appropriating and, you know, offending the roots of the practice and all that like really serious side of things. And I decided when I finished my exam that I was going to beg for forgiveness instead of ask for permission. So I sent 2 final projects. And I kind of expected Vicky to just like pick one. I would not have blamed anyone for only reading one of my projects, but I got really thoughtful, wonderful feedback about both of them. Thank you, Vicky. And that was when I just knew that like I had been in the right program, and that my own finding my identity as a yoga teacher in sometimes like really different ways was like supported and accepted by Sun and Moon, like no matter what. So that's my standout moment.
Thank you, Allison. That's beautiful. And I hope that that comes through for everybody. That's our intention, that's our hope, that's our sincerity coming through. That we care about the people first and foremost, and not the lists of things and the rules and frankly, that is a testament to what yoga is meant to convey. It's about learning who we are, to turn our compass inward and find true north, which is going to be different for every single unique person. All right, so Alex.
To jump in with something quick.
Yeah.
Just in case you have the kind of mind that's asking the question, so many faculty, so easy, so liberally flexible. Actually, this is funny that I'm about to say this, Annie, because you're usually the that's usually my part. It's good when you can debate both sides.
We've just had a role reversal. You've all witnessed a major role reversal between me and Alex.
There is, well, part of this is because I was a major part of the coordinating effort, that while there is all this flexibility and all these different moving parts, from the beginning, it's a very structured, very grounded program, giving you the basics. It's already been mentioned, the foundations, like when kids play with building, blocks with the letters on them. That's part of their learning that later they put together they see it in their books, and they start to string together words, and then they read novels, then they write novels. So we provide a very much a foundation, and it's very integrated, very thought through. It's decades of tried and true, and it keeps refining. Witness this moment that needs the refinement online, but it's always being refined as well. So if that's a question you have, and even if you want more information about that, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Alex. Usually I'm the cross the T's, dot the I's, and Alex is like, well, what about the K's? Let's throw some L's in there and twirl them around and stand them on their head. I'm like, no. Anyway, so I would love to have a chance to take some questions from any of our curious participants here today. Go ahead and jump in if you have any questions at all. And to those of you who have already shared, I thank you so much. I honor and value your presence here in this community, and we very much appreciate you being here. So questions, anybody? Nina.
So that was really eye-opening to me. I was delighted to hear about everybody's different experiences, because as people were saying, it's really about your own personal journey, and what you're going to be learning is going to be about you. And it can be super transformational. It can be, it can be anything that it becomes, obviously. One of the things I would like to know about is, since it's, at least it has been in the past, so much, hands-on and person to person and, body to body, how, and you said it earlier, there's pluses and minuses about doing things all online. And I found that you can get a lot more from things online in a way, but you still want to have that personal connection. I mean, at least I've been involved in the community for a while. I know people at least by face, if not, having taken everybody's class. So can you talk a little bit about, or can some of the people who were in this hybrid one this year talk a little bit about how that went?
Yeah, I'm happy to address that to the extent I can. So a few things that we're tossing around in terms of building those connections. It gives us a chance to rethink the focus that we put on the asana, on the poses, right? So
right.
we're gonna scale that back a little bit, frankly, and focus on more of the relationship building and sort of psyche delving aspects, which are really in line with the philosophy. We're looking at ways to build community and connect on the Zoom platform by making sure that we carve out some really dedicated time for sharing. And of course, it's not going to be like a free-for-all, like show up, and it's all going to be relevant. And that's one of the beauties of yoga, is that you can it already is all relevant. So we're
Right.
going to take aspects of our lives as they exist right now in light of the pandemic and talk about how this is changing us in a profound way. And what does the yoga say about that?
Right.
And I'd like to also add that because the last training group was basically shunted quickly online to finish up their program, we learned a lot of things.
Thank you.
Over the summer, I took a wonderful online training with guest teachers Baxter Bell and Melina Meza. And they have basically mastered very quickly themselves online training. So we have learned very quickly some key things that we're going to carry into this training.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I have a question. I wonder whether after this pandemic is over, hallelujah, whether you think that maybe your business model will still incorporate Zoom classes. I worry about not having a connection to the community if I were to go through this program and not be close to you.
The toothpaste is out of the tube. I mean, the tube is empty at this point. There's no going back. We commit to having an online presence going forward. I don't see any reason why that would go away. Yeah, and Susan, you're not the only one who is not super local and convenient. In fact, Erin's here from Georgia, right? And we've got, I think we have at least 2 other people who are interested in the program who do not live in the area currently, and that's exciting to us.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you asked.
One question I have, one of the alumni, and thank you everybody for sharing your experiences. It's really helpful. Mentioned observing a class while it's being taught. And I'm just wondering if I can see an incredible amount of value in that. And I'm just wondering, will there be some opportunity to experience that still?
Yeah, Vicki, you want to talk about that?
Certainly. Yeah, we'll have a page and we'll discuss about how to observe a class and things that you'll do when you observe a class. And there will be a certain number of hours and certain classes that you will observe. It's really different than taking a class. So you're not involved in actually doing what they're doing. You're stepping back so you can see how the teacher is phrasing something and what the students do as they say things. It's a really valuable piece to the program.
And how do you do that through Zoom?
So you do it in the same, like if you can see right now, we've got people here and not always do people have their cameras on, like right now is the case, but there are always some who do and who will.
Right.
So what you're watching for is how the teacher delivers the invitations into and out of each day for each experience, and then you're watching the response.
Right, and you're maybe watching individual people more actively than you would if you were in an actual class.
Exactly. And thank you for gallery view. That's how. Yeah. Anybody else?
This is Anne.
I was just gonna. Okay, go ahead.
I originally, one of my questions that I had written it down when we were starting may have been answered by listening to all the folks who've talked, but I was wondering like if there's sort of an age requirement. I've gone to Sun and Moon for like 20 years, I think it is, and loved it, moved overseas and came back and really wanted to do this years ago, but life just didn't allow it because of the life we had. And so it sounds like some people have done it after they've retired, but I thought maybe you could just address that anyway, because that was a key question for me.
I love that question. We have had participants get ready for this age range. We have had participants as young as 17, all the way up to, I'm pretty sure, 80.
Wow.
So, you know,
I'm within that range.
Mhm.
And so if I could have a follow-on question, in some ways, the Zoom presentation is going to make it really easier to
Mhm.
follow and to complete, especially at this time. But being slightly older and having had some injuries, the asanas are also important. So when this part is over and we move back to a different world, will we catch up with that in some ways?
So I want to make sure I understand your question in terms of the asana part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, so absolutely. And it's not like we're eliminating pieces of it. Okay. We're sort of compressing it in such a way that makes sense for the platform. So in every year's curriculum, there is a time when we address seated postures and back bends and forward folds and standing poses. That's all still going to be there, right? We're still going to talk about how to sequence an asana class and talk about the bell curve. When we start close to the ground, we stand up, we get big, we end up close to the ground. We're going to have our portion on alignment that Amir does so beautifully, where we're going to talk about how to find balance and stack the bones. So all of the key pieces are definitely still going to be present.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hanny, if I may answer that question also, the first question. I was 57 years old when I started the program. So I waited, I tried to do it earlier, but life got in the way with my teenagers. So I waited until my youngest child went off to college and I had an empty nest. So that's when I started. And there were people in my program young enough to be my daughters, but we all ended up being friends. At the end, we're still friends to this day. 4 years later, we have a Facebook group. We email each other, we support each other. So yeah, it's been great.
Sandra, you're still not 57. What are you talking about?
I'm over 60 now. Finally finished.
Well, yoga's keeping you young, obviously.
Oh, yoga for healthy aging now. I got 2 certifications this year. So yeah, still learning.
I have a follow-up to the comment about learning asana online, and it matches up to what I think Annie addressed at the very beginning is I think we're going to find, yes, it's not the same as being in person, but because we are not telling you what to do, but telling you how to find what to do.
Yeah.
I think this is a very important evolution that yoga is going in this direction anyway.
Yeah.
And we are almost blessed by having to have this limitation where we need to learn to do that. Second part, quickly, one of my teachers, as my program had to go to Zoom, the one I completed today, says that when we're first born, or maybe before we're born, we hear sounds and we orient to voice and voice quality. And when our first earliest orientations are toward faces, and there's such a huge power. Yes, there are many other things that come in, but there's a lot of power in seeing each other this way. There are limitations, but I'm finding the power of coming together on Zoom can be
phenomenal. Yeah,
incredibly deeper than what correctly presented in a certain format is. I think it's going to be mind-blowing.
It's so true. The faces and the voices are in some ways clearer than ever. Any other questions? We're going on just about an hour now, so I don't want to hold anybody for too much longer, but jump in if you think of something right now that you're inspired to ask. All right. Well, yeah.
I would just like to say that I live a good distance from the studio, and I was a part of Sun and Moon for a very long time, and I did entertain completing my teacher training elsewhere. But because Sun and Moon is built on such loving kindness, it just really is. And the people there, there's like a draw. And everybody that you will ever meet at Sun and Moon, whether they be a teacher, a student, a seeker, the very first time just happened an off the street person, didn't know what they were looking for or what they were getting themselves into, will always feel that connection. So and let me tell you, I would do it again and again. And Zoom and this time that we live in now, I've observed classes in person and I've observed them online. And the difference is, I think through Zoom, you can really see however many people, 10 bodies or whatever, are they really hearing the teacher? It's so clear whether they are receiving the guidance that they need to get to achieve those poses. It really has been a big difference than sitting in a studio.
Interesting.
And it's so much more personal because we're in our personal spaces.
Right.
I just think there's just something about it. And Sun and Moon, I can't speak any higher or praise for the teachers and what they bring to the training program.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you. That's really heartwarming to hear. All right. Well, Vicki and I will hang out for as long as anybody wants. If you wanna ask a question, but we're gonna go ahead and conclude the recording and thank everybody for being here. So deep in our hearts, we are grateful and we honor this community. Thank you all.
Thank you.